सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
As New Delhi welcomed streams of international delegations and global leaders, from Rishi Sunak to Sheikh Hasina Wazid and Joe Biden and many more arriving in a power procession unprecedented for India, unprecedented in our history, two headline points emerged from a totally unexpected direction. Our principal opposition party. One, the interview with the former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh on the front page of the Indian Express, and second, the statement from Rahul Gandhi speaking with the media in Brussels, Belgium. Rahul Gandhi, as we know, is on a European tour. The first said nothing that was critical of the Prime Minister, nothing critical of Prime Minister Narendra Modi or his government, while taking a by and large optimistic view of the direction in which India is headed. Manmohan Singh only said it might do better in an environment of social harmony. Rahul Gandhi was more direct and charged the government with presiding over democratic backsliding in India. Both, however, were also forthright, equally forthright, in their view that on Russia and Ukraine, the Modi government had taken the correct approach and that it had their backing. Rahul went a step further to say that even an opposition government would have followed broadly the same policy. This isn't entirely new to Indian politics. On some of the most critical issues of foreign and strategic policy, the ruling establishment and the main opposition have generally agreed in the past. Lately, however, our politics has been so broken, so polarized that even what would have been a perfectly normal few words of solidarity have now become headline worthy. Where it started isn't difficult to find, nor does it need any deep archival research. The relationship between the Congress and the BJP had taken a particularly bitter turn post-Vajpayee. In the Advani era, niceties or honor among thieves, whatever you choose to call them, had dissolved. These had dissolved into pure vitriol. Besides ruining the national discourse, it was also corrosive to the larger national interest. Here are three good examples, two purely of foreign policy and one on economics, but with wider implications for policy. Consider these. Number one, between 2005 and 2008, the Indo-US nuclear deal, while it would be a reasonable argument that Dr. Manmohan Singh's UPA was only taking a logical next step on the process that Vajpayee had started, the BJP saw it as so much of a surrender that it even decided to join hands with its permanent ideological adversaries, the left, for example, in trying to bring down the government on the confidence vote on the nuclear deal. Sushma Swaraj, then the BJP's most prominent leader in parliament, compared the deal to Emperor Jahangir allowing the East India Company to do business in India. And I'm quoting her, which laid the foundations of 2.5 centuries of subjugation, she said. The repercussions of the nuclear deal also may go the same way, she darkly warned. The BJP similarly blocked the India-Bangladesh boundary deal, which involved the exchange of enclaves deep inside each other's territory. It was unwilling to see reason, not even that it would serve India's larger national interest, to give the Awami League government of Sheikh Hasina something a boost, and in the process also settle at least one of India's disputed boundaries. Arun Jaitley said there should be no compromise on India's land. By that time, Modi had already emerged as his party's preeminent leader, and I had written a national interest in August 2013, headlined Dear Narendra Bhai, suggesting that he intervene and help get this concluded in the larger national interest. And third was allowing FDI in multi-brand retail. Once again, the BJP was at its shrillest, calling it a destruction of India's economic freedoms, fretting over the future of neighborhood mom and pop shops, as these are called in the West, particularly in Europe, in Britain, and forcing another parliament vote that they lost. The reason I say it wasn't just an economic issue but of strategic importance is that it's reforms like these that have built India into the economic powerhouse that it is. About a decade later, it's instructive to see where the government policy stands on each of these three issues. Our strategic ties with the Americans are deeper and wider than before. The nuclear deal, in fact, is being carried to its logical conclusion. Chances are that the Modi government might even resolve the issues over the nuclear liability question. On Bangladesh, settling the borders was among Narendra Modi's earliest achievements, and there was zero controversy. And multi-brand retail, step by step, the restrictions have been removed or diluted. And e-commerce, whether carried out by the global market leader Amazon or the many foreign-funded, mostly Chinese and Japanese-funded startups, is a lesson to those in BJP who forced the second parliament showdown, which I had mentioned earlier. They lost. If you are the more skeptical type, you might argue that the Congress taking this view on Modi government's Ukraine-Russia policy should be no surprise, pleasant or not, because it fits in with their multi-generation pro-Soviet, now Russia, pro-Soviet, but more importantly, anti-Western, which is America, upbringing. The fact, however, is that the Congress, out of power for the 10th year now, had earlier overseen the big moves with the US, repositioning India decisively on the western side. The aggressive rise of China has now made it easier, if anything, for the BJP. While many in the Congress were deeply suspicious of Manmohan Singh's policy and moves, even angry, they put up with it. By this 10th Modi year now, we haven't seen the Congress attacking him on the US policy, the deepening strategic partnership and the dramatic diversification in the sourcing of weaponry away from Russia. To understand how significant is this shift in our politics, in our national politics, we need to look back exactly 40 years ago, almost exactly 40 years ago in March 1983 when Indira Gandhi hosted the Non-Aligned Movement Summit and marked it as her finest foreign affairs hour after, of course, the liberation of Bangladesh 1971. Fidel Castro hugging Indira Gandhi was a defining image of that era. Indian politics and policy elites still nurtured and loved the pretense of being a revolutionary nation of some kind. Even subsequently, as going became tough for him in the second half of his tenure, when a beleaguered Rajiv Gandhi thundered, "Nani yaad dila denge," I find it impossible to translate it, but "Nani yaad dila denge" literally will remind him of his grandmothers. He wasn't asking about the Soviet Union or China. America was still the Satan. He was threatening those who might be behind those opposed to him. The 40 years from the NAM summit to the G20, this G20 with Biden, Macron and Sunak bilaterals besides many others, these mark India's march from a fake non-alignment to a mostly transactional policy autonomy. When P.V. Narasimha Rao took the first hesitant steps of change, he ran into a wall from both his party and the BJP. We must note that if he hadn't reformed the economy, India would not have acquired this global stature that we are enjoying today. Our growth, the size of our economy and our improving demographics are all our greatest strategic assets. All of it is a good case study in what financial markets people would describe as power of compounding. Again, the baton has been carried equally keenly by every subsequent runner in this relay. Now we've become very familiar with the relay races because we've seen a great one run by our 4x400 men's quartet. This relay has been run by Narasimha Rao, Vajpayee, Manmohan Singh and now Modi. The fundamental shift in India's worldview owes itself to the fact that its competing political forces collaborated in the national interest. The Congress now backing Modi on Ukraine-Russia is just another of those moments that make us feel better about our mostly broken politics.